Welcome to this lecture on the Crisis Solution Memorandum and Letter. This is one of your first major assignments in this English 410 class, so I want to go over it in some detail for you, hopefully to answer any of those frequently asked questions ahead of time so that you can then invest your time more wisely in constructing these very important business documents. So let's take a look. This is a 100-point assignment, so definitely worth investing a little time in. You are going to be responding to one of these case studies. We have two to choose from. You have seen these case studies before, earlier this week, as a part of our discussions, as we talked about memos and their different components, and then business letters and their different components. So you're very familiar either with the Odwalla case, which is all about contaminated apple juice. You can download the PDF of that case here. Or the Taco Bell Corporation, they had some public perception issues, specifically about their brand. You're going to download that PDF here. So pick one of these two cases, whichever one you're more interested in, and familiarize yourself entirely with that case. Then you're going to submit two documents here. A communication strategy memo and a professional business letter. Some of us feel that the memo is a little outdated as a mode of business communication, but you would be surprised how much it truly is still being used. It's not in its little paper form anymore. They're all, of course, electronic, but it is a staple of the business industry as our business letter. So very good to hone these skills here before you use them in the workplace. You're going to be submitting these as two separate files. So do make sure that you're doing that, and they should be Word files. Just as a friendly reminder, of course you know, because this is a 400 level class, Canvas hates Pages files for whatever reason. They've got an ongoing feud. I don't know. Do not submit anything in Pages. I just won't be able to see it. Canvas just spits it back out again. So use a Word file here. For more information on these particular types of formats, I've got a generic business letter for you here. As well as some more in-depth information about the Odwalla crisis if you need a little more background on that. So use these models to kind of help you construct this assignment. So the memo, let's go over some of those details. Memo is a very specific kind of business document. It follows a very standard and fairly strict format. So do make sure that you're following that format here. The first thing you're going to be doing is date, to, from, and subject. These are in all caps. The following information is not. So do make sure you're following that format here. And then you're going to be constructing this memo. Memos are clear and concise forms of business writing, so you want to get the most information out there in the most effective way. So we want to give some background. This is about one paragraph. We do want to include a citation for O'Rourke. You can use this in-text citation format because this is the source of the case study we're working with. So we're summarizing the case study. Anytime we summarize information that didn't start in our heads, we need to go ahead and attribute that information to the correct source. So summarize the case details in your own words. If you're paraphrasing or quoting, of course, we need to include those in-text citations in APA style. Then there is some discussion of the case. We want to rank order the critical issues and discuss the implications. If you need a little bit more detail about this, refer back to our first discussion board this week where we were working on composing each of the pieces of the memo. There's a lot more detail in that discussion board. So if you're curious about any of these sections, go back to that discussion board, look at those in detail types of outlines for what needs to be included. After you've got the discussion, which is 2 paragraphs, you're going to have your recommendations. This is going to be a short paragraph followed by a list. That list can be numerical or bullet pointed, depending on what style you want to follow. So each recommendation begins with a verb. We talked about this in the discussion as well. Verb is in bold. The verb phrase, the action that you want the person to take, and then supplemental supporting material follows that bolded phrase but is not bolded itself. Recommendations are listed in order of priority, so the first thing you want them to do, the next, and then aim for at least 4 separate recommendations. We want to acknowledge that these are complex problems we're dealing with. There isn't one size fits all solution for it, right? So we would be oversimplifying if we said there was just 1 or 2 things the company needs to do. There are lots of things both Odwalla and Taco Bell need to do to solve their problems. Pick at least 4 to talk about here. In the discussion, you want to do the following. So check this out, read it in further detail. We want to identify our stakeholders. We want to draw on our personal experience and imagination. We want to have another paragraph that follows some deeper issues, talking about interdependency, time, and perspective. So read through this in detail. It's really going to help guide your memo creation. Once you've got all that, you want to wrap it up real nicely with a concluding sentence or 2. As we talked about in our discussion boards, we want to kind of end on a up sort of note. So think closing arguments of legal counsel here when they're standing in front of a jury and they're saying, here are all the best points of my case. Here's what I need you to do about it. Similar kind of form here as we close out our memo. Here are all my best points. Here's a positive we can take away. We're on it. We're solving this. It's not going to happen again. We're invested in our stakeholders, that kind of thing. So try and end on a more positive note. That's your memo. You're going to be submitting that as a Word document, and then you're going to be constructing your business letter. This is the second of the 2 documents you're going to be submitting to earn these points. Write the letter in the name of the company's president or CEO. So you're pretending you are this person in power in the company, and you're writing this letter to others. So you're going to sign it as the president or CEO. So look up that information in the case studies. If you're working with Odwalla or Taco Bell, make sure you're populating this section with the correct information. Focus the letter on one audience type. There's not a correct answer here. Just pick the one that you want to address, whether it's customers, franchises, shareholders, etc. Pick the one that you want to work with. And then in the content of the letter, we want to be consistent with our memo. So these 2 documents should pair well together, so the information should be similar. We don't want to copy and paste sentences, obviously, but the ideas need to connect. And then we want to personalize the letter. This letter is much more emotional. So think about the memo as just strictly business. We want just the facts and how to fix this thing. The letter has to take into account the human condition and make human connections. And so we want to acknowledge someone might be frustrated, or we want to thank someone for staying invested in the company despite the issues we're having with our apple juice, or something like that. So we want to create emotional connections with our reader. We want to retain these people. We don't want to lose them because of this incident, right? So how do we create those connections? How do we create a warm, welcoming kind of tone that makes our reader want to stick with our company despite the struggles that we're facing? So greet the reader warmly, summarize the problem clearly and concisely, be transparent. We don't want to seem shady. We don't want to do anything unethical. So acknowledge their experience and how they've been affected by the problem. Then we want to give some very clear steps that the company is doing to fix the problem. Clear, straightforward, addressing the issues. And then, of course, we want to end positively. We want to thank our reader. We want to engage them. We want to be hopeful that they will continue to use our company, and wrap it all up there. You are going to be following the business letter format. We go over that in more detail in discussion 2 earlier this week about business style. So please refer back to that discussion board as you're composing the business letter here. I've got documents linked in that discussion board that show you exactly format, how to do the block letter style, all of that good stuff. So check that out before you complete the business letter section of this assignment. As always, if you have any questions, reach out. I am here to help, and good luck with this first of our many wonderful assignments we're going to be doing together this quarter.